Before TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram memes ruled the internet, there was a wild, messy, creative playground that existed in every web browser, Adobe Flash. Or as most of us just called it, Flash Player. But its story isn't just about a plugin on your PC. It's about an era of experimentation. Small-time developers turning into internet legends and the rise and eventual fall of browser-based animation and games. Today, we're diving into the history of Flash Player, its underdog cousins like Shockwave and Unity Web, and the animators and developers who shaped a generation of online content. The birth of Flash. It all started in the mid-90s with a company called FutureWave. They developed a program called Future Splash Animator, which allowed animators to create vector-based animations for the web. Vector animations? That's fancy talk for graphics that don't pixelate when you zoom in, a perfect solution for slow internet speeds in the 90s. In 1996, Macromedia bought FutureWave, rebranded it as Macromedia Flash, and suddenly, web animation wasn't just for nerds with GeoCities pages. It was accessible to anyone with a computer and a little curiosity. Flash made the impossible possible. Small-time animators could now distribute content globally. Some of the most memorable early Flash projects were wacky, experimental, and sometimes terrifying. And people loved it. Flash and Shockwave. While Flash dominated animation and light gaming, its older cousin, Shockwave, was carving a niche in 3D and more complex games. Shockwave came from Macromedia 2, originally as director. Unlike Flash, it wasn't free, and it required a bigger download, but it powered games like Beast Wars and early CD-ROM titles. Shockwave was ambitious. It tried to bring console-like experiences to the browser, but its complexity and heavier system requirements meant it never hit the same mainstream level as Flash. Still, for developers pushing boundaries in interactive content, Shockwave was a hidden gem. Flash's golden era. The late 90s and early 2000s were Flash's golden era. Websites like Newgrounds became launch pads for indie creators. Animators and game developers could finally share their work without a publisher or studio. Creators like Tom Folk turned a hobby into a full-fledged community. Animators like David Firth and Johnny Picking pushed the boundaries of absurd, creepy, and hilarious web content. Flash was more than a tool. It was a culture. Flash also democratized game development. Simple games like Line Rider or Alien Hominid started online and eventually reached consoles. Flash taught an entire generation how to code, animate, and iterate, skills that would shape the future of gaming. He rise of Unity Web and other contenders. As the web matured, Flash faced challengers. Unity Web Player, introduced in the mid-2000s, offered true 3D graphics in the browser. Unlike Flash, Unity required a plugin, but unlocked console-quality experiences online. While Flash dominated 2D animation and indie games, Unity Web Player and WebGL became the new standard for 3D and more performance-heavy web applications. Shockwave slowly faded, Unity rose, and Flash's dominance started to waver. The fall of Flash. Then came the blow. In 2010, Steve Jobs famously announced that iOS devices would not support Flash. Why? Security vulnerabilities, slow performance, and the rise of HTML5. Suddenly, Flash, the backbone of the internet for over a decade, was on a countdown. Adobe tried to adapt, but the writing was on the wall. In 2020, Flash Player was officially retired. The internet moved on, but its legacy lives on. Flash's legacy and impact. Flash might be gone, but the lessons it left behind are everywhere. It gave indie creators a platform, taught coding and animation skills, and created a culture of experimental web content that influenced YouTube, memes, and indie games. And let's not forget the developers and animators who took risks, pushed boundaries, and built communities. From the absurd to the artistic, their work shaped internet culture in ways we still feel today. So next time you stumble upon a vintage Flash game or animation online, remember, it wasn't just a plugin. It was a playground, a school, and for millions, it was a first taste of the internet's endless possibilities. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into internet history, hit like, subscribe, and let us know your favorite Flash memory in the comments, because the web was never the same after Flash.